Steve Sipple.
Hey!
The conversation gets even more uncomfortable, okay?
Omaha!
Steve Sipple on the Connor Happer Show on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we're joined now on the 42 Degrees, the Source hotline by our dear, dear friend, Steve Sipple of HuskerOnline.com. Sipple, good afternoon. How are you?
Connor, fine. It's good to be with you. How are you guys doing?
Good. How'd you ring in the new year the other night?
I was probably in bed at 10, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What was I doing? I just got back, I think.
Oh, yeah, the bowl game.
Yeah.
Well, you guys stayed like 4 extra days, or what happened?
No, I didn't. I was still wiped out, though.
That's okay.
It seems like I had to do a bunch of stuff. God, I don't know about you, but all the days sort of run together, and I can't even think about what was going on. But I was really wiped out that day.
How was your trip to New York?
It was great. It was fun. It was a great experience. It's obviously, I've only been to New York. That was only the second time I've ever been to the city. So it's not like everything was novel to me still. And it's just a good thing to see. I wouldn't ever want to stay there for an extended period, especially if it was on my dime. But going as a work trip and seeing it and then covering the bowl game at Yankee Stadium, it was incredible. Incredible.
So now that we have a little bit of hindsight for the game and from the game anyway, what do you think Nebraska takes from not only the win, but the players that it was able to get in the game, the experience in general? Like, how beneficial do you think that experience can be for them going forward?
I would think hugely beneficial. I'd like to think that. I really don't see how it couldn't be beneficial. It was the offense and defense played well. It was a hard fought game. Boston College is tough. I mean, they're not great, and they're without probably their two best players, I'd say, one for sure. But still, it was a hard fought win. They had to be disciplined. They had to be disciplined in the run up, because that's what you have to do in bowl games. Your program, there has to be a measure of discipline. And there was. And like Rule said, they got to get used to this and get used to December, practicing in December, practicing well in December, and being focused for an opponent, and then playing well in the game. So all of that is very meaningful. It's incredibly meaningful. So yeah, and I thought they showed well. I mean, obviously, you guys have talked a lot about the special teams. We all have.
Yeah.
There's that part of the conversation, but there's a lot. Like, the defense was at times exceptional in that game, and I'd say at times the offense was too.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about Raiola, and I felt like over the last, I mean, I guess you could probably correlate it with when Holgorsen took over the reins as the offensive coordinator. Although I don't know if it's directly attached to that, but I think we saw like a more emotional version of Dylan, like a fiery version, especially with the guts to pull those footballs at the end of that game and try to make a couple plays with his legs and get a first down later in the game. What do you take from, like, I feel like that's not an insignificant thing that Dylan Raiola now feels comfortable enough to sort of show a little bit more of the personality and do all of those things heading into his sophomore year.
Probably indicative of some more confidence.
Yeah.
And a sense of the team being his. I mean, at least in the bowl game, I hadn't thought about this. This is why I like coming on your show and other shows. I hadn't thought about it, but that demonstrative element that you're talking about came after Rule declared that he's the quarterback in 2025, that this is his offense. And I mean, I'm sure that was good for Dylan to hear. You could say, well, wouldn't he know that? I guess, but to hear the leader verbalize it is meaningful. I would think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that it's significant that he's showing that showing more fire, because I think it's indicative of confidence. That's how I read it.
Yeah, and well, we do the thing with like the freshman mistakes and all that stuff, and a lot of times we talk about that directly with performance and how you play. But I the confidence piece of it is huge to me, and him getting to the point where I think he feels comfortable enough around his teammates to be a little bit more of a vocal leader. Like I thought, we're now starting to see the real version of Dylan Raiola. Like I think that, along with the combination of him and Dana Holgerson and wide receivers and all that stuff, is a reason to be pretty excited about next season with him.
Yeah, it's got to carry into now. I mean, it's this, like Rule talked about it. January, not right now, but pretty quick here. All those kids will start reconvening, and it's really important. And as you get later in this month and then heading into February, March, there's a lot of activity with the quarterback and receivers, a lot of meaningful activity. And that's how these teams get to where they're, you see these very precise timing routes, the timing's exquisite. That doesn't just happen, because you practice well in the month of August. That's an all year round thing. So it is really big. I mean, Dylan, there's a lot on his shoulders. I don't, like, I think about it a little differently nowadays that these kids are getting paid. He's a pro. I mean, he's really a pro.
Yeah.
At a young age, though. So I always kind of battle that in my head. He is a pro. He's getting paid like a pro. So he's got to kind of act like a pro, even though he's still pretty young. He's still got a baby face. But now his expectations in 2025 will change. He doesn't want a season where he throws 13 touchdown passes in 2025. It should be 26 touchdown passes in 2025. It should be something like that. The ratio's got to get better. Everything's got to get better, but it starts now, and then it's this. Also, there's this. Now it's squarely on his shoulders. He's the guy no matter what. And there's a lot that goes into that conversation. But yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm optimistic because I think the need, there was a huge need to get better in the receiver room, and I think they have.
Yeah. What about special teams? What is your best guess on what happens? Because Rule said it's going to be a bit of an overhaul here. What's your best guess on what happens with that unit and how it gets better?
Well, I mean, they brought in a new punter from Washington.
Yes.
That's already.
McAllister.
McAllister. Is it Jack McAllister?
Yes.
Jack McAllister. They brought in a long snapper. So that's a start. They brought in a returner. I think Andrew Marshall would be a leading candidate to be a returner. I wonder about Hardley Gilmore too, the receiver. Another receiver from Kentucky. He returned punts in high school and was good doing it. So they probably have some more options there. That part's got to get better. Now as far as what they do as the leadership position, I'm very interested because I think you'd agree. I think it's very evident to the public that there's an upgraded offensive coordinator with Dana Holgerson.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's clearly an upgrade. And then I think we'll find out that it's very possible there's an upgraded defensive coordinator. I believe that. I think that I'm really excited about those coordinators. But what would concern me as a Nebraska fan is that the special teams will drag back the entire operation. We've seen it at Nebraska. We've seen an operation that was pretty good. Well, for instance, with Bill Callahan, but the defense dragged it back. That was there's 3 units. In that case, it was 1 unit that dragged back the whole operation. I don't want to see a repeat of it. So whatever Rule decides, I mean, it's very. I look at it very pragmatically. I think they can be pretty good on offense. I think it's pretty clear that they can be good on defense. Don't have a unit drag the whole thing back. And if you do have a unit drag the whole thing back, everybody's job is in jeopardy at that point.
Yeah.
So don't mess around with it. I'm very interested to see, and I don't know. I can't tell you as I sit here right now. If I'm being maybe, let's put it this way. No, I'm not even going to get. I don't want to get into conjecture. I don't know right now.
Sipple, we were just talking about how Rule has sort of reshaped it a little bit from the initial vision a couple of years ago, and how not only in the style of football in which they play, specifically we're talking about offense, but also the roster and how you develop players, which they still want to do, but they've brought in a lot of transfers at this point. It feels, or how different does it feel than 2 years ago? And what are some of the major, I guess, tenets of that, and how it's different from when Rule first got here?
Well, it just seemed like when we first got here, the conversation was more, we're going to build it the conventional way.
Yep.
But as time has elapsed, it's become fairly clear that it's harder to do that. Rule had that very important moment where he said when he got hired, Ted Carter, the former president, and Tom Osborne, the former coach, said that they want to have a developmental program. I'm not sure you can now. I don't know at least not in the way we came to know developmental programs. And it seems like the conversation with Rule has shifted. I'd have to go back and look at all the quotes, which may be a decent exercise, but he has shifted some in the way he's thinking, because he's had this shift in the way he's thinking. And they are, I wouldn't say they're heavy in the portal, but it's, let's look at it this way.
They've recruited over some younger developmental type of guys.
Yeah, that's a great, thank you, Connor, for helping the old man. That's exactly right. So I never know what to think anymore. Jalen Lloyd is a very good example of this. He's a developmental type receiver. He needed to develop into a player that would be his best as a junior and a senior. He's just an example. I'm just using Jalen as an example. But coaches can't really wait anymore. It just feels like if there's that type of player, and there's a player like Dane Key or an Isaiah Hunter that are available, you just have to go get them.
Yeah.
And then you got to push those developmental guys back a little bit. And if those guys aren't willing to wait it out, then you move on. Some will be willing to wait it out. Some are willing to wait it out, but it can't be easy when you see these guys coming in. And I would say this too: both you mentioned the receiver room and the secondary, both need to be enhanced. They do. And we don't do a good job. It feels like we don't do a great job around here of just calling it like it is. And I don't do a great job of it. But I know now, in hindsight, Holgerson came in and said, we gotta do better at the skill positions. We have to be better at receiver. And so look what they've done.
Yeah.
They brought in Hunter and Key and Gilmore. And I wouldn't be surprised. Well, they can't all three start, but they all can three be in the top 5, and they will be.
Yeah. All right, Sipple. Big basketball game tomorrow. Are you excited?
Very. I would classify myself as very excited. It's a big game, obviously, in the season, because you got to hold home court. It's against the top, it's an 11th ranked team. It's a tough team. It's a challenge for Fred's team because of the way it plays. It's going to be up. They're going to be up in your face, so to speak, and it's a great defensive team. There's a lot of reasons it's intriguing. But also the key probably is it's the start of a really hard 5-game stretch. And you want to get off on a good foot on that.
All right, Sip. Thanks for taking the time as always. Enjoy your weekend. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Steve Sipple of HuskerOnline.com. Basketball Sipple.